today I wanted to talk to you guys about Need for Speed 2015 and why I know that this is the most important Need for Speed there has ever been. And why I actually believe this may be, to me, the most important racing game there has ever been, honestly, to me. Except maybe like the first ever racing game ever and Underground, but it's definitely up there. But anyway, let's get into it. So, the other day, this is where my thought process began. I actually downloaded Rivals. Some of you may have seen it. If you went on Twitter, you saw my tweets about it. I tweeted about it, and I played it for maybe 20 minutes, mucking about, trying to get 60 FPS working, this sort of stuff, and playing at 1080p Ultra. Anyway, I had a lot of fun. I used the save game because I played it on console and thought, hey, I can't be bothered to do it all again. So I plugged the save game in, went in a P1, customized it, went out, and Jesus Christ, even though the cops come after you for no reason, the police pursuits is something I miss. Not the whole using pursuit tech and not that sort of stuff, but actually having a ridiculously fast-paced car, because Need for Speed is always a ridiculously fast-paced game. So you're flying down the road, you've got the cop radio going, you've got the cop music going, or the chase music, you've got the screen, like the field of view changing because of how fast you're going. You got the NOS button, which is great, having NOS in a game that just feels amazing again. You've got cop cars, sirens behind you, you know, the way the screen kind of tilts when you go past the car at high speed, and it's like, that was amazing. It reminded me again why Rivals was so intense when you got to the higher, like, numbers, and why I found it so difficult at the beginning, and why I love Need for Speed, because I've been playing nothing but, say, The Crew, Forza, which are good games, don't get me wrong, but they're not full-on arcade racing games like Need for Speed is, like Carbon, Most Wanted, anything in the Need for Speed series. It's something that every single Need for Speed has, and every other game seems to miss. It's that proper, pure arcade racing, amazing, undergroundy feel that you pretty much get in every Need for Speed. I won't say undergroundy feeling, but you know what I mean, like, just the ability of ridiculously fast-paced, amazing arcade fun that's over-exaggerated, and the amazing car sounds, how can I forget, and just, so much. Anyway, but on to the point. So, Need for Speed 2015 is the most important Need for Speed ever. Because, why did EA get rid of Black Box? Why did EA get rid of Criterion and reopen it, well, not reopen it, but have about 5 people in Criterion and, you know, get rid of the idea of them making Need for Speed? Why did they get rid of pretty much most of Ghost UK? And that's because Need for Speed has been failing, like declining ever since, really, for a while. And that could be, you know, pointed for many reasons. You could point that at the milked Underground too much, that they went away from Underground and that was what killed it, or Pro Street was just really messed up and, you know, they didn't have enough development time to work on a proper game and all this kind of stuff. But the reality is that doesn't matter. The point is, if this game fails, it's probably the end of it, and not just for Need for Speed, but probably for a lot of arcade racing games that follow Need for Speed. You remember Juiced, LA Rush, anything like that, Midnight Club, all of those games kind of follow Need for Speed in some aspect and get inspiration from Need for Speed. If the biggest franchise in racing is gonna fail and die and close up, then I think everything else will probably follow. Yeah, we'll get some other games, but they probably most definitely won't have the same feel as Need for Speed, because not even games today have the same feel of what I get from Need for Speed. But I mean, rumors have been saying that EA almost closed Ghost completely when, you know, Rivals didn't do amazing, but they actually decided to give them a longer development time because, you know, they closed half of Ghost UK, which was supposedly working on the next Need for Speed, so, you know, that's kind of what happened to that. But I mean, literally, name all the other open world racing games, arcade racing games that you know and play today. What do we got? Midnight Club? Yeah, that's dead. They're not making anymore. Juiced? Dead. Not making anymore. The Crew? Yeah, The Crew. There's an arcade racing game called The Crew that's been in development for 7 years, which started development in 2008. Keep that in mind. Since between 2008 and now, what arcade racing games have we got? Yeah, not many. Not many at all, is it? Maybe CDU2, I think that was between then. Is that? And then we've also got Forza Horizon 2, or Forza Horizon in general, which is an arcade racer, but you don't get the high, ridiculously paced feel. You have a lot of complicated stuff that Need for Speed obviously does very easily, but I prefer that in a way. It's simplistic. The tuning was a little slider for more traction, for more speed. Does it slide through the corners, or does it grip through the corners? Does it have long NOS, or short knots. It was very, very simple. Forza, in a way, it's good. I mean, but it's not Need for Speed. That's the point I'm trying to make here. It needs to be exactly Need for Speed for me to be happy, or have the element of ridiculously high-paced action, crazy pursuit music, crazy intense car sounds, and just everything, whirring sirens. That's Need for Speed. There was a YouTuber, or a few people I saw on Twitter tweeting, "In Ivory we trust," which was something to do with the crew being the final point for racing games. As in open world racing games. And it would be, if this fails, then there's not going to be any more open world arcade racing games, which is a bit silly to say. I'm not going to say, like, this is going to be the last open world arcade racer, but it's going to be the last Need for Speed. And honestly, Need for Speed is what we've been asking for. Everybody knows Need for Speed. People that don't speak English and their game isn't translated to their language know what Need for Speed is. You know, it's Need for Speed. The name is absolutely huge. It is the hugest name. It's like Fast and Furious, but of the game world. And if this Need for Speed fails in making an open world underground style racing game with customization is key, if it is that, then we've got an issue. Because then that is where, if the biggest series fails at doing it, there's not going to be many games that try and follow suit, because they'll probably do the same and they'll end up closing shop. So that is pretty much it, and why I believe Need for Speed 2015 is the most important Need for Speed there has ever been, or the most important arcade racing game there's ever been, ever. We need Need for Speed 2015 to do well, but in order for us to make it do well, they need to have made a brilliant game that we're going to enjoy. It's just not a one-sided thing. It's got to be both ways, Ghost. Anyway, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button. If you agree with me, hit the like. If you disagree with me, hit the dislike, and let me know down in the comments why you think that way, either or, like or dislike. Until next time, guys, I'll see you soon. Peace.